out of my house, you witch. I don't want to see you anywhere near this compound again. Leave and never return. Useless woman.
In the village of Oshel, there lived a man named Ina and his beautiful wife, Adana. At first, their love was the kind people talked about with smiles and envy. When they walked to the stream, they held hands like they were afraid of losing each other. When they went to the farm, they worked side by side, sharing the same hoe, laughing as the sun beat down on their backs. Even when they ate from the same bowl, feeding each other pieces of meat with joy that shone brighter than the morning sun. Adana was a good woman. Her cooking could make a full man hungry again. Ina was strong, tall, and hardworking, known in the village as a man who never feared labor. For the first few years, their home was full of laughter. They were like roasted yam and palm oil, perfect together. But as the moons turned into years, something began to change. A silence slowly crept into their home. 1 year passed. 2 years passed. 5 years passed. By the 8th year, their laughter had faded into heavy quietness. And the village gossips began to whisper. Whenever they saw Adana walking by, they would shake their heads and speak cruelly. A beautiful tree with no fruit is just firewood, they would say. Ina tried to remain patient, but the pressure was eating him alive. At the palm wine bar, his friends mocked him openly. Ina, are you sure you are a man? One would laugh. Why is your house so quiet? No crying, baby. No running feet. Those words sank into his heart like thorns. Slowly, frustration turned Ina into a stranger. He stopped talking to Adana. He stopped eating her food. He started coming home late, smelling of strong drink and anger. Then, he met Chioma. Chioma was from the city. She wore clothes that clung tightly to her body and painted her lips the color of ripe pepper. She didn't like farm work. She didn't like stress. She liked enjoyment. And she knew exactly what to whisper into a wounded man's ear. She is cursed, Chioma told him one night, brushing her fingers across his arm. Adana is not a real woman. She will never give you a child. Why waste your life? Ina, blinded by years of pain and Chioma's sweet perfume, made a terrible choice. One rainy evening, he returned home and threw Adana's clothes outside like they were rubbish. Pack your things, he shouted. I am tired of feeding a barren woman. I need a son to carry my name. Adana's knees hit the ground immediately. My husband, please, she cried, her voice trembling. God's time is the best. Don't do this to me. But Ina pushed her aside like she meant nothing. That very night, he brought Chioma into the house. And he moved Adana, his wife of 8 years, into the leaking boys' quarters at the back of the compound, treating her like a stray dog. Life in the backyard was cruel. Adana slept on a thin mat laid on a cold floor. She cooked with firewood while Chioma used a kerosene stove inside the main house. She endured hunger, loneliness, and humiliation. But Adana did not fight. She prayed. A few weeks later, something strange began to happen. The smell of her morning akara made her vomit. Her body felt weak. Her waist pain was different. Confused and frightened, Adana visited the village midwife, an old woman whose eyes looked like they could see into people's souls. The midwife touched Adana's stomach gently, then smiled. Adana, she said softly, wipe your tears. The gods have answered you. Adana's heart stopped. Then the midwife continued. You are with a child. Joy burst inside Adana like a river breaking through a dam. She almost forgot all her suffering. She ran straight to the main house, her feet moving faster than her fear. In her heart, she believed. Surely Ina will take me back now. This is what he wanted. She knocked on the door. Ina opened it. Behind him stood Chioma, chewing gum loudly like she owned the world. Ina's face tightened. What do you want here? He barked. Adana's hands trembled, not with fear, but with happiness. My husband, she said softly, her eyes shining. I have good news. The midwife said. I am pregnant. For a second, silence filled the room. Then Chioma exploded into loud, wicked laughter. Pregnant, she screeched, clapping her hands. You? The dry wood? You're lying. She pointed at Adana with mockery. You just want to come back inside and steal my food. Look at you, maybe you only ate too much cassava. Ina's eyes darkened with disgust. Do you take me for a fool? He snapped. For 8 years, nothing happened. Now that I have a new woman, suddenly you are pregnant? He shook his head. You are a liar. I am not lying, Adana cried, holding her stomach as tears spilled down her cheeks. Ina, it is your child. But Ina's heart had already turned to stone. Get out, he roared. He shoved her so hard she stumbled backwards. Get out of my compound. Go to your father's house. I don't want to see your face, or your fake belly, anywhere near me again. Broken and humiliated, Adana packed the little she had into a faded Ghana must-go bag. Tears blurred her vision as she walked out of the compound she had built with her own sweat, her belly heavy with a child, her heart heavy with pain, stepping into an unknown future. When she was gone, Ina thought peace would return. He thought enjoyment would finally enter his house. But Ina was very wrong. The peace that never came. The first week passed quietly. Ina even convinced himself he had made the right decision. But by the second week, the true color of Chioma began to show, like cheap paint peeling off a wall after the first rain. One evening, Ina returned from the farm tired and hungry, his body aching from work. Chioma, my love, he called softly, is the food ready? Chioma was sprawled on the sofa, her feet resting on the table, painting her toenails a bright red like fresh blood. Food, she scoffed without even looking up. Did you leave money for gas, or do you think I will blow air to cook yam? Ina blinked. But, there is firewood at the back, he said gently. Chioma looked at him like he had lost his senses. Me? Chioma? Enter smoke, she hissed. God forbid. If you are hungry, go and cook. Ina stood there, shocked, swallowing his pride. That night, he entered the kitchen and cooked rice himself. When it was ready, Chioma rose like a queen, grabbed a plate, picked the biggest pieces of meat, and returned to the sofa without even saying thank you. And that was only the beginning. A strong man turned houseboy. Chioma refused to sweep the compound. It will spoil my manicure, she said. She refused to wash Ina's farm clothes. They smell like earth and sweat. Wash them yourself. She refused to fetch water. The bucket is too heavy. Soon, the villagers began to notice strange things. They saw Ina, the strong man, the proud farmer, bending down in the morning, sweeping his own compound, while Chioma sat under the mango tree with a small radio blasting loud music, nodding her head to the beat like she had no care in the world. Ina has become a woman in his own house, the men whispered. That girl has used juju on him. Ina heard the laughter. He felt the shame. But still, he endured, because pride is a stubborn thing, and regret is a slow poison. The day the house exploded. One evening, the tension finally burst like an overfilled pot. Ina came home and froze at the sight of the house. Dirty plates were piled high, flies buzzing over them. The floor was sticky with spilled food. The air smelled of rot and laziness. And there was Chioma, sitting comfortably, laughing loudly on the phone with a friend. Chioma! Ina shouted, his voice shaking. What is this? Am I a slave in my own house? Chioma ended the call slowly and stood up, hands on her hips. Don't shout at me, she snapped. Did I force you to marry me? If you're tired, go and bring back your rag of a wife. Something inside Ina broke. You are lazy and useless, he screamed, raising his hand. But Chioma didn't flinch. She grabbed an empty beer bottle from the table and smashed it against his head. Crash. Blood spilled down Ina's forehead. He staggered back, stunned, his ears ringing. Chioma stood over him, holding the jagged neck of the bottle like a weapon, her eyes cold and fearless. Touch me, she warned, and I will show you that I grew up in the streets. Ina, bleeding, shaking, humiliated, ran out of his own house while Chioma hissed and returned to her phone like nothing happened. The whole village heard the noise. And instead of pity, they laughed. The man who chased away a diamond to pick up a stone, they mocked. The warning that changed everything. That night, Ina sat at the village square with a bandage wrapped around his head, looking like a man whose spirit had been crushed. That was when a stranger approached him. It was Emma, a man from the neighboring village of Yumyun. Emma looked thin and sickly, his cheeks sunken, his eyes tired like someone already halfway to the grave. He sat beside Ina quietly. Ina, Emma said in a weak voice. My friend, why do you look like a ghost? Ina sighed bitterly. Emma, you don't even know what is happening in my house. Emma's eyes filled with tears. I heard who is living with you now, he whispered. Chioma, Ina replied with disgust. Emma nodded slowly, his voice shaking. She is not just a devil, Ina, she is death. Ina sat up sharply. What do you mean? Emma swallowed hard. 3 years ago. Chioma was my girlfriend, he began. She was flashy like she is now. I left my fiancé for her. I spent my money on her. But she was not just lazy. Emma wiped his tears. She is a prostitute. She moves from man to man, breaking homes. Ina's stomach tightened. But Emma wasn't finished. And that is not the worst part, he whispered. Ina. Chioma has the sickness. The virus that has no cure. Ina felt cold run down his spine. What? Emma's voice broke as he said it. HIV. Ina's world tilted. Emma sobbed openly now. I slept with her. Now I am positive. My life is fading away. I came to warn you, chase her away before she kills you too. He paused, shaking his head. Though I fear, it might already be too late. Ina couldn't breathe. He sat frozen like a statue. Then he stood up suddenly, his legs weak, and ran back home like a man running from death itself. Chioma's true face. Ina burst into the compound. Chioma was outside under the mango tree, eating an apple slowly, chewing like she had all the time in the world. Chioma. Ina screamed. She rolled her eyes. What is it again? Did you forget to buy my credit? Ina pointed at her with a shaking finger. You are a witch, he shouted. I met Emma today. He told me everything. You have HIV. You knew it. And you came into my house to infect me. Chioma stopped chewing. She didn't look scared. She didn't look sorry. She looked bored. Slowly, she took another bite of the apple. So it is today you knew, she asked casually. Ina's mouth fell open. Why you admit it? Chioma shrugged. Everybody has something, she said carelessly. If I have it, why should I die alone? She stepped closer, her eyes cold like stones. I needed a place to stay, and you were foolish enough to chase your wife away for a skirt. She smiled bitterly. Don't blame me for your stupidity. Rage filled Ina's chest. Get out, he roared, grabbing a machete from the corner. Get out before I cut you into pieces. Chioma stood up slowly. No panic. No fear. She walked into the room, packed her heavy bag, clothes Ina had bought with his hard-earned money, and dragged it to the door. At the threshold, she turned and stared at him with dead eyes. I am going, she said. There are many foolish men like you in the next village. I will find another home to break. Then she leaned closer and whispered like a curse. But you better go and check yourself. She laughed, a dry, cruel laugh, and disappeared into the night like a bad dream. The result that destroyed him. The house became quiet. But it wasn't peaceful quiet. It was the quiet of a haunted place. The next morning, Ina's heart beat like a drum as he traveled to the general hospital in the city. He didn't want the village doctor to know. He didn't want anyone to see his shame. He sat in the waiting room, sweating, shaking, praying silently. When the doctor finally called him in and ran the test, the minutes felt like hours. At last, the doctor returned holding a paper, his face serious. "Mr. Ina," he said softly. "The test is positive." Ina's legs gave way. He cried like a baby. Not only for the sickness, but for his foolishness. He had traded gold for dust. He had traded life for death. The uncle's words. He returned home like a walking corpse. He couldn't eat. He couldn't sleep. Adana's face filled his mind, faithful Adana, clean Adana, loving Adana. Where is she? He wondered. Is she safe? Is the baby real? Finally, he went to the eldest man in his family, Uncle Akshuku, and told him everything: Chioma, the bottle, the virus, the regret. Uncle Akshuku listened quietly, tapping his walking stick on the ground. When Ina finished, the old man's voice came like thunder. "Ina," he said sternly, "you have acted like a madman." Ina sobbed. "But a man who falls must try to stand again," the uncle continued. "The sickness is in your blood now, but you still have breath." He leaned forward. "You must find the woman who truly loved you. If she is still carrying your child, you must beg for her forgiveness before you die." Ina's shoulders shook. "But will she forgive me?" he cried. Uncle Akshuku's eyes softened. "A good woman's heart is deep," he said. "Go and find her." Finding Adana. Ina searched for 3 days. He asked in neighboring villages. He walked until his feet were swollen. Finally, someone told him they had seen a pregnant woman staying in an unfinished building near the market, miles away. Ina ran there. And when he arrived, his heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. The building had no windows, no doors, no comfort. Inside, on a pile of old cartons, lay Adana. She looked tired. Her clothes were torn. Her belly was huge, heavy with the child. She was fanning herself weakly with a piece of paper. Ina's voice broke. "Adana." She turned slowly. Her eyes widened in shock. She tried to sit up but was too weak. "Ina," she whispered bitterly. "Have you come to mock me again?" Ina fell to his knees. "I am sorry, Adana," he cried. "I am a fool. I am a beast. I chased you away for a demon." His tears dropped like rain. "I have suffered. Chioma ruined me." Then he looked up at her, his face twisted with pain. "I have the sickness, Adana. She gave it to me. I am a finished man." His voice cracked. "But please, just tell me you forgive me. I don't deserve you, but please." Adana stared at the man she had loved for 8 years. She didn't shout. She didn't curse him. She only cried quietly. Then, slowly, she stretched out her hand and touched his face. "My husband," she whispered. "You lost your way." She took a shaky breath. "But God says we should forgive." Her eyes softened. "I forgive you, Ina." Ina wept loudly, holding her hands like he was holding life itself. He helped her stand. He carried her bag. And he took her away from that cold, broken place. Because even though he had destroyed her, her heart was still bigger than his cruelty. They began the journey back to their village together. The walk was slow, because Adana's pregnancy had grown heavy, and every step carried both pain and hope. But Ina stayed close, matching her pace, holding her hand like a man who finally understood what he almost lost. When they reached home, Ina did something no one expected. He did not let Adana lift a single finger. He swept the compound. He washed the floors. He cleaned every corner of the house. He gathered everything Chioma had touched, bedsheets, cups, plates, even the pillow covers, and threw them away like poison. Then he cooked for Adana with his own hands, standing over the fire like a man trying to rewrite his life with every stir of the pot. And when Adana sat down to eat, Ina knelt beside her and said in a voice full of regret and love, "Even with this sickness in my blood, I will spend every day I have left treating you like a queen." Adana looked at him, and tears filled her eyes, not of pain this time, but of healing. The day their miracle arrived. 1 month later, Ina and Adana sat together in their small home, eating yam porridge quietly. The air was calm. The kind of calm that comes after a storm has finally passed. Suddenly, Adana's spoon slipped from her hand. Her face tightened. She grabbed her lower back and cried out, "Ina, my back." Ina's heart jumped. He stood up immediately. "Is it time?" he asked, panic filling his eyes. Adana nodded, breathing hard. "Yes, the baby is coming." Ina didn't waste a second. He lifted her into his arms, carried her outside, and placed her carefully on his motorcycle. Then he sped toward the hospital like a man racing against fate itself. A prayer that shook the heavens. At the hospital, the doctors rushed Adana inside immediately. Ina was left outside the delivery room. Alone. Sweating. Trembling. He paced back and forth, his lips moving non-stop. "God, please," he whispered, voice breaking. "Let the child be safe. Let Adana be safe. Please, don't punish her for my sins." Minutes felt like hours. Every sound from inside the room stabbed his heart. Then suddenly, the door opened. A nurse stepped out, smiling from ear to ear. "Mr. Ina," she said brightly, "congratulations." Ina froze. His mouth went dry. "Congratulations," he repeated, barely able to breathe. The nurse nodded happily. "It is a double blessing." Ina's eyes widened. "Double." Before he could even finish the sentence, he rushed inside. Twins. Adana lay on the bed, exhausted but glowing with joy. Her face was damp with sweat, yet her smile looked like sunlight. In her arms were 2 tiny bundles, wrapped carefully in soft cloth. Adana looked at him and whispered softly, "Twins." Ina stepped closer, his whole body shaking. "A boy and a girl," she added. Ina stared at them like a man staring at a miracle he didn't deserve. They were perfect. They had Adana's nose. And they had his eyes. Tears rolled down his face and fell onto the baby's blanket. "We will call the boy Emmanuel," Ina said, his voice trembling. "And the girl Emanuela," Adana added with a weak but happy laugh. Ina bent down and wrapped his arms around his wife and his children, holding them close in that hospital room. Despite the virus in his blood. Despite the years he wasted. Despite the pain he caused. Ina finally felt a peace he had never known. He looked at Adana with eyes full of promise. "I will take my medicine," he said firmly. "I will live long for you and for them. I will never let you cry again." Adana nodded slowly, holding the twins tighter. And in that moment, their broken home began to heal. The village was silenced. When they returned to the village, the gossips who once mocked them had nothing left to say. They saw Ina carrying his twins with pride, walking beside his wife like a man who had been reborn. They saw the laughter return to the house that had once gone silent. And the village learned a lesson. A mistake can be great. But forgiveness is greater. Because even though the calabash had been broken, the water of life still flowed. And joy returned to a home that was once almost destroyed. The end. Thank you so much for watching this story. I would love to hear from you. Please share your thoughts in the comment section. Another interesting episode is coming out in a few days, so make sure you subscribe, like, and turn on the notification bell so you'll be notified the moment I upload the next video. And if you enjoyed this story, please share it with your family and friends. I really appreciate you all. And I'll see you in the next one. Red Heart.